How do you write the discussion section of your research paper? Hi everyone! Welcome back to my channel. I am Miss Maggie and I upload videos about research writing tips. If you are interested in contents like this, hit subscribe to get updated with vlogs I post. Before anything else, I'd like you to remember that the discussion section is different from results. As I mentioned previously with my vlog on results of the study, the discussion section, when written separately from results, consists of your explanation about your results. So in the discussion section, you give reasons why, for example, variable A affects variable B. You also give reasons why your variable A is connected or linked to variable B. The discussion section is also the part of your research paper where you relate your related literature to the findings of your study. You answer questions like, number 1, are your data consistent with previous studies? Does the pattern of responses from participants align with your theoretical framework? Or are your assumptions supported by the data that you have gathered? You may also talk about new findings your study was able to discover which did not come out yet in previous research. In other words, you explain your results using your theoretical and/or conceptual framework and previous literature you discussed in the literature review section. At this point, I hope that you are able to see the differences between the results and the discussion section when they are written as two separate parts or chapters of a research paper. Now let's talk about things you need to remember when writing this section. Number 1, you should not introduce new data which were not discussed in the results section. Number 2, and this is related to number 1, you should stick only with results discussed in the results section. It's kind of redundant, but I'd like you to remember the importance of this rule. There is no need for tables and graphs anymore in this section, because if you're going to introduce a table or a graph, that means to say you have a new data or a new result which you need to discuss, and this is not the section where you do that. The discussion section concentrates more on the explanation as to why your results are in a certain manner or direction. So number 4, you have to make sure that all literature, as much as possible, which you mentioned in the literature review are included in the discussion. Delete those literature which have no use in your discussion section, because that's the purpose of your literature review, to be used to explain your results. And if they're not used to explain your results, then they do not have any purpose in your literature review. And then number 5, relate your theory or explain how your assumptions fit in the pattern of results. You may be asking yourself now, what then is a good discussion section? How would you know if you're able to cover all the things you need to cover in your discussion? Let's now talk about what makes a good discussion section. A good discussion section is, number 1, you're able to explain the results according to your assumptions, your theoretical and conceptual framework, and findings of previous studies which you discussed in your literature review. Number 2, you leave no section of the results section unexplained. And then number 3, you are able to discuss new findings, implications of your results, and direction of future research in the area or field of study in which you have chosen for your research paper. How do you write the discussion section, you may ask? Well, here are my tips on how to write this in a more organized manner. Number 1, you read your results section several times. You take note of your major results, the ones that answer your research problems. Number 2, you write the results in bullets and check your literature in the literature review, which of the latter are related to a particular result. Number 3, to do your tip number 2 in an organized manner, create a table like the one below. So you have your 3 columns, and on the left column, you have your results, and in the middle column, your related literature, which are related, of course, to your result, and then on the right column or on the last column your theory or concepts related to your result. To continue, my tip number 4 is you write each result in a sentence format. You may copy this from the result section, then include the literature that support them. Number 5, you may repeat tip number 4, but this time relate result with theories or concepts you mentioned in your theoretical and conceptual framework. Number 6, based on what you've written so far, analyze what the implications of your research findings and include them in your discussion. This is discussed in the last paragraph or towards the last part of your discussion section. And number 7, do not forget the future direction of the research in your area or field of study. For you to get a good grasp of how the discussion sections are written, I have an example here for you. This is not a real study, so this is just a fictional result that I have come up with in order for you to get an idea about how discussion sections are written. I'm going to read the paragraph for you. Here's an example discussion section. The result of the study is consistent with previous research that pointed out that mental health is dependent on a number of factors, namely family, work, and social relationships. And then I placed here the fictional studies related to the first argument, and then I included as well as financial status. So for the second part of the sentence, this was taken, or this is related to the studies done by Rodriquez, Johnson, and Torres. As you have noticed here, I used the APA format, which means I arrange the literature according to alphabetical order. And then I have another sentence. However, it does not seem to fully support numerous studies that says that it has something to do with genetic factors. And then I added additional literature which are related to the second sentence. So I do hope that you're able to get an idea of how to write your discussion section, and I do hope that by this vlog you'll be able to do your discussion section well. And thank you so much for watching. I hope that I have helped you in my own little way.